So, for a while now, I've been thinking about doing a new segment here on my channel. Uh, I've been thinking about like kind of a memoir of my run-ins with rock and roll royalty, at least in my estimation. And I've come to the conclusion I've got a shit ton of stories to tell you guys. Some of them you might not believe. Some of them, well, from my point of view, I was there. It happened, and it's all true. And I thought, what would be a really good first story to tell you? These are animals' true rock and roll stories. So I thought, well, what's going to be the first one? You got so many. You've met so many people in this business. And I thought to myself, well, who's one of my most favorite live acts to go out and see? That would be this band, Nashville Pussy. I met them in the late 90s. I don't recall the date of the show. I do remember it was one of their first co-headlining tours. And it was with Motorhead, Nashville Pussy, and somebody else who I can't even remember. It was at the White Rabbit in San Antonio, Texas, where I'm from. And it was one of the defining moments of my love affair with live rock and roll. Now, one of the things you need to know about me, I'm not a religious person. I don't ascribe toward any type of ism per se. But I do believe in rock and roll. It's the one thing in my life that's been consistent, and it has always uplifted me when I needed it the most. Ozzy once said, rock and roll is my religion and my law. That's what I believe. That's what I ascribe to. And fuck anyone else who wants to tell me otherwise. No. This is my religion. This is what I believe. And it will always be. So, the first time I see the band, I want to say it's around 1996, 98. My memory is really fuzzy about the exact moment the first time I saw them. But I had already been listening to them for a good while. Their debut record, Let Them Eat Pussy, was already on my radar. This is the record. Now, I was like, fuck yeah, Motorhead, Nashville Pussy. I've always been a lifelong Motorhead fan. Lemmy is, I think, musically, stylistically, he's the guy that I emulated most. And basically, I kind of stole his shtick for my stage persona when I was off playing in the band Creepshow. If it wasn't for Lemmy, it would have been somebody else who looked like him. But since I was a little kid, Motorhead was, next to Ozzy Osbourne, one of my most favorite acts. The first time I saw Ace of Spades, I lost my fucking mind. And it is really a testament to his presence. The other person that I basically stole my stage persona from was Wendy O. Williams from Plasmatics. She put something out there that has never been, at least in my estimation, successfully reproduced. There was a quality to the music her and Plasmatics were producing that it was just like Lemmy and Motorhead. They were a crossover between punk and heavy metal. Now, the difference with Wendy O. Williams and Plasmatics is there was a change in the sound from when they first debuted. Their first album was No Rest for the Weary, Wretched. No Rest for the Wretched. I think that's the name of the record. I'm sure somebody's gonna make sure that that's correct. It may not be right. This is all from memory, so please forgive me. The rum's weighing heavy tonight, but I move on. I get to the show. I think we find out like a day or two before the White Rabbit gig that Motorhead drops out. I was incredibly disappointed, but I think it had something to do with the fact that the owners of the Rabbit didn't want to pay Lemmy what he wanted. I think that's what it was, but I could be completely wrong. I don't know, but that's what I heard. Needless to say, I was like, fuck, man, what am I going to do? I got these tickets already. I prepaid for them. I already got them in hand, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I mean, I like Nashville Pussy, but am I just going to go just to see Nashville Pussy? I'm not going to fucking throw these tickets away. Fuck it. I'm just going to go to your show. I liked them at that point. But I wasn't a die-hard Nashville Pussy fan yet. Get to the show. Everything's going cool. I'm getting pretty pissed, fucked up, drunk. And the show kicks off, and it's like every one of the fucking songs on Let Them Eat Pussy and a couple of others. I think they previewed a couple of songs from the next record, which was High as Hell. One or two, maybe. I don't really remember. Again, my memory's real shoddy when it comes to this kind of stuff. Recounting these tales of these shows that I've been to. But it was an incredible show. And it made me believe in rock and roll again. I'd seen hundreds of shows. La Semana Alegre, Freeman Coliseum, anything that was coming into town through San Antonio, I made sure I went and fucking saw. I've seen Rush, I've seen Iron Maiden, I've seen Judas Priest, all the big names. But that's almost like a generation detached. And at that point, I was disillusioned with what rock and roll had become. And I didn't like it. I didn't appreciate what was going on at the time. Now, some of the stuff 20, 30 years later, God, it's almost been 30 years since the first time I've seen Nashville Pussy. Fuck. But I will say that this show reawakened my love for a live rock and roll event. Watching these cats play, it was balls out. It was, we don't give a fuck. Zero fucks to give, man. It was an incredible fucking show. And I will say that drew me back in to the the rock and roll lifestyle. At that point, I was just starting out with John Hex's Creep Show. And there was a part of me that didn't want to be involved in it. That moment rekindled the fire in my heart. And it made me want to go and pursue rock and roll as a part of my life. Being a musician, playing out, giving people something they hadn't really seen before. It's because of that fucking show, man. I will say, and I've said this before to many other people, Nashville Pussy were the saviors of rock and roll. For me. If for nothing else, they were the saviors of rock and roll for myself. I had not seen a performance that visceral since I had seen Gigi Allen. Yes, I had seen that motherfucker live. That was actually my very first show. He played in San Antonio. That's another story to tell. That's not for this. I digress. When I did finish the show, I had the opportunity to go backstage. And it's like nobody really gave a shit about who was going in and out of the backstage. Because Motorhead wasn't there. And all the other people were just like, fuck it. We're just going to go do our, let the second bill band play. And hang out and do whatever. And they did. And I went back there. And I spoke and had a really long conversation with Corey Parks, who was the bass player at the time, and Ryder Size. I did meet Blaine Cartwright, and I think it was Jeremy Thompson was the drummer, I think, at the time. I have to look at here. Jeremy was a real nice guy. He was from Austin, actually. And Blaine was kind of like, he was very standoffish, but he wasn't rude or anything. He was just, kind of standoffish. He's a guy that's, he did his thing. And at the time, I wasn't really aware of his other success with the band called 9 Pound Hammer, which later I found out about. Again, another story for another time. But 9 Pound Hammer is from Atlanta, as well as Nashville Pussy. They're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Great fucking band. Cowpunk, if you're going to describe it as anything, whatever. So I got, this is the CD insert for the reissue of Let Them Eat Pussy. There were 2 versions of the album issued out. The very first one, which only had a single sheet, and this one, which was the kind of like the gatefold, I guess you'd call it. It came with a insert poster. This one turns out, opens up, and then you see this one. That is Corey Parks, Ryder Size, signing this little bit of pornography for me. Every member of the band signed it. They were really cool, really gracious. And they ignited a fire in myself. And if it wasn't for this band, I don't think that I would have played with John Hex's Creep Show for as long as I did. As saying a lot. I had been a mariachi for about 4 years until I was blacklisted. That's a long story to tell. I'm not going to tell that here right now. But I will say, the love of music, the love of rock and roll music, was re-gifted to me. And without this band, I wouldn't be the man that you see before you. I wouldn't be the performer. If you've ever had the opportunity to see me, those were good days. Those were bad days. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the fucking world. I got to sit there with Corey Parks for 45 fucking minutes and just talk about shop stuff, her rig. She used to do this bit where she would blow fire. She taught me how to do that. And I did that for Creep Show for a very brief time. And then I met Ryder Sides. And she is a fucking queen. A queen of rock and roll. Right up there with Doro Pesh, in my opinion, as far as graciousness and generosity of her own self. I will never be able to adequately express my gratitude to her. Ryder. For being as kind as she was and generous as she was with her time. Because after that, I made it my mission, my business, to go to every single show that they played in the area that I was living at. And every time, she's remembered me. She's called me by name. And that is something special. Especially for seeing hundreds, maybe thousands of people every single year going on these tours, Europe, the entire world. That's fucking awesome, man. I don't know if that's a part of myself that's imprinted on them, or just the kind of person that they are. But it's made an impression on me. That's for fucking sure. Those were really good days. Special days, for me anyway. And I just needed to document it so that whoever comes after me when I'm gone, none of us have any. Tomorrow is promised to no one. And that's for fuck sure. I hope you enjoyed this little storytelling triad of mine. And if you want to see more of these stories, let me know in the comments. Y'all have a good one. Take care. And remember, rock and roll, motherfuckers.